Are we about to enter a bizarro world where Magic the Gathering has companions included in Core Set 2021 and Zendikar Rising? Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. It has been almost, 24 hours since we've talked about companions, so I think it's time to do it again, because that's the world we're living in. Let's be real. Companion the Mechanic has made a massive impact on Magic the Gathering in a very short period of time. I mean, I feel like the only thing in recent memory that's gotten this much conversation would be the whole Oko thing, where every second day I'm like, are we Oko again? You know what I mean? In the back, we even had an Oko background. But anyways, companions are going to be the bit, the focus conversation for a while, I'm guessing, just because of what's going on. I originally thought that companion was just something that was hastily slapped together for Ikoria. I mean, if we're all real and we look at Ikoria, it just feels like a quickly assembled set where nothing is actually cohesive. The book doesn't fit with the story of the cards. None of that fits with the trailer. It's all just sort of like a collection. Ikoria is Magic's Magic's junk drawer. That's what we're looking at in this scenario, where essentially Ikoria is whatever. So I thought Companion would just be like, okay, you know what? They're trying out Companion because they needed filler for the set. But now it might turn out that Companion is actually a bigger plan of Wizards. I can't say for sure that's what's going on, but just the pushback and response. Like, we're going to take a look at a specific blog posting from Rosewater addressing companions. There's a couple of different factors coming together to make it feel like they're pushing back against us. One is yesterday's ban announcement video. If you want the full details of it, obviously you can go and watch it, but to roughly summarize what's going down with the bans is the primary focus of the bans for real is companion action. There was some side brawl stuff where it's like, okay, we're going to ban a couple cards in brawl, but that wasn't the main meat of it. What people wanted to see was, are they going to ban some of the companions in the older formats and in the newer formats? We were expecting it. I mean, there were calls to have the entire companion mechanic itself banned, which is, I mean, that's historic all on its own. The fact that people would just come out and be like, we need to get rid of this mechanic. And I mean in a serious way. No matter what exists in Magic, there will always be some subset of the Magic population that's like, I hate that, it's the worst thing ever. Like, trample shouldn't exist on cards, you know, where you go, okay, look, I get that you don't like trample, but it's a fine part of Magic, relax. But Companion isn't like that, right? Companion has a lot of people getting up in arms, right? So there's a combination of things that have been said recently. Rosewater did a little poll where it was like, hey, would you be okay with mechanics stretching across blocks and seeing a return of a mechanic in a different block? And if you don't get what that means, basically, before in the long ago, Magic used to operate off of a 3-set block system where we would have a big set and 2 small sets, and that was their way of fleshing out a world. And they would have, like, the first set would introduce some mechanics, right? The main set would introduce its mechanics. The second set would expand on those mechanics while adding in some more of its own. And then the third set would expand on the mechanics of the first 2 sets while also introducing its own little bit of, check it out, we've got our own mechanic too to make us differentiated. But that mechanic would, by necessity, get the least amount of love because you couldn't spread it out. So basically, what Rosewater is asking is, are you all right with seeing abilities that are stretched, or mechanics that are stretched over from one set to another, which honestly kind of feels a little bit disingenuous when we look at the way that like Eldraine was done. Because what happened, if you didn't know, is Eldraine was supposed to be 2 different sets originally. They were going to do a 2-set block because they changed from the 3-set down to we're going to do whatever we want. Sometimes we'll do 1, sometimes we'll do 2. So, for example, the recent Ravnica block was a 3-block set, or a 3-set block, I should say. And then we've been following that up with like, here, just one set. Here we're on Eldraine. Now we're on Theros. Now we're on Ikoria. But Eldraine was going to get 2 sets. Instead, they collapsed it down to 1 and they pulled Ikoria forwards. And you can see that they took a bunch of stuff that was clearly meant for Throne of Eldraine and just put it into Ikoria. That's why you have like the non-human, human kind of stuff going on with the Winota. It's very obvious that they took this stuff from the files. It's like, we've designed the cards and Ikoria needs to be put out. So you've already got a scenario where you're taking mechanics from this one set and stretching it into another. But either way, the general thrust of what that concept is supposed to be is that normally mechanics are restricted to their own particular world. So we have evergreen mechanics like flying, first strike, all those sort of things, that no matter what set we're doing, you're going to have flyers, you're going to have first strikers. But then you have particular keyworded abilities that only show up in particular sets. Like Ikoria has cycling, for example, and cycling is not something you see in every set. That is actually something they use here and there. Maybe I should pick something a little more specific. Think like Rakdos's Hellbent ability. That's not something that you see anywhere other than on Ravnica and anywhere other than Ravnica, like specifically Rakdos creatures from Ravnica. So it's more taking an idea like that. Would you be okay with seeing something that's mechanically tied to this world and we just slap it into this world? And it's just sort of that setup where it's like, hey, if we take this mechanic and cross it over, are you cool with that? And when it comes to companions, that's what Rosewater's been talking a lot about. People get really worked up about this companion scenario. All of a sudden, he's coming out and saying, how do you feel about mechanics being crossed over? How do you feel about us doing this across multiple sets? And that could be a testing the water of how are people going to react when they find out that companion is in 2021 and companion is in Zendikar. And in fact, we intend for companion to be an ongoing permanent part of Magic the Gathering, because that could be what's going on. We have a blog post specifically referencing yesterday's ban and restricted announcement. And it says, I saw this in the latest BNR announcement. If we see signs of long-term health issues resulting from high metagame share of companion decks, we're willing to take steps up to or including changing how the companion mechanic works. I want to voice that I would be extremely displeased with Wizards changing how a mechanic works. It feels like functional errata. Companion has been quite fun in my cube as is. A rules change could shift power levels too much for their inclusion to be valid. And basically what this person is saying is like, look, I saw you say in yesterday's ban announcement that you're willing to change fundamentally how companion works as opposed to like other methods here. And this is a person who's actually saying, I don't want to see that change. I like the power level. Now, this isn't something we see a lot in the discourse about companion, where we're specifically dealing with the scenario where a lot of people seem very disappointed with companion. However, Rosewater's response, even to somebody who's happy about the power level of companion, says, companion is having ripples throughout almost all of the constructed formats in a way no singular mechanic ever has. It might call for special action. One of the things that I wondered when looking at this is how many of like negative responses did Rosewater have to kind of wade through to find somebody who was talking about companions and the bans and who was like, no, leave them alone, I like them. Like, I'm guessing the ratio of people who were really upset about it is much, much higher. So we find ourselves with a very bizarre situation where Wizards is acknowledging, Rosewater is acknowledging right here, that companion is having ripples throughout almost all constructed formats, and it's in a way that basically the wording is in a way no singular mechanic ever has, and it might call for special action. So the deal is normally when there's a problem, Wizards swings the ban hammer. That's what happens with problematic cards. They always get banned, right? They've never come out and been like, oh, you know what? We're just going to change how these cards work instead of banning them. That is not traditionally how things are done in Magic. Now, tweaks to actual fundamental rules, they do happen. Let's be real. Like when they have made multiple changes to the legendary rule, for example, and the way that legendary permanents function. So it's not like this is unprecedented. It's just the way that they're doing this. Legendary, like legend rules didn't change because they were necessitated by bans or anything of that nature. The legend changes were made to allow legendary permanents to have more room to breathe and kind of slightly tweak how they work, but not because they were a widespread problem influencing the variance of Magic the Gathering. This is a completely different beast. And you would think the answer would be to just outright ban them. And this is what also lends to the idea of, are companions actually going to become a permanent or at least semi-regular occurrence in Magic the Gathering sets? Are we looking at a fundamental renaissance of Magic the Gathering set design and overall actual gameplay design? Because let's make no mistake about it. If companions become a regular occurrence, they will become one of the centerpieces, because the power level of them having that additional card, the more companions that exist, the more likely people are to use companions. The more people use companions, the more necessary using companions become. It's a vicious, inescapable cycle, unless companions are essentially excised from the game. The fact that they're not saying, hey, normally with the ban announcement, what they would say is the same kind of corporate nonsense they gave us yesterday, where we've been monitoring standard and it's healthy and diverse, but we'll keep our eyes on it. That's usually how they do it. They don't say, we will fundamentally change how this mechanic operates. And so that leaves me to think that they're trying to salvage the mechanic. Now, why would they try and be salvaging companion instead of banning it across the board? One reason could theoretically be the terrible optics of banning 10 cards out of a set, because there are 10 full companions, and that would be a nice slap in the face with the amount of those that you're going to be getting in packs, right? I mean, you ban Oko, that's a mythic that's showing up here or there. You ban companions, every time somebody opens a companion, that pack becomes because Wizards doesn't load packs with a lot of good commons and uncommons, right? So your rare is essentially what's worth it in your packs. So we've got 10 feel bad pack scenarios. So it could be that they're just trying to make companion feel more palatable for the short term, and they're still going to issue a ban. It could be that they're trying to make companions more palatable, and they're just going to leave them alone for what they are for the duration Ikoria is in the set and just kind of bite the bullet. Or it could be that companion is intended to become a centerpiece of Magic the Gathering, because Wizards market analysis has said, you know what? Commander is a huge format, and we make a lot of money off of Commander. How do we make standard Commander? Which is a hilarious concept to think of in a marketing meeting, or not, like, you know, where you've got all the head management going, okay, hold on. Commander is our most popular thing. Okay, how do we turn everything into Commander? Because it looks like Commander players will pay absurd amounts of money for all kinds of different things. As long as it's something that goes into their specific pet deck, they will pay a lot of money for key pieces. So how do we force everybody to play Commander? And that might be where the companion mechanic actually came from. It might be an attempt to turn Magic into Commander Junior, where every format is Commander. Everybody has a companion that they build their deck around, because you literally can't avoid it. They're too ubiquitous and too important to be ignored. The same way that they took Planeswalkers from like a random inclusion in Lorwyn, where they were somewhat reasonably powered, and now all of a sudden Planeswalkers can be just crazy, broken, dumb nonsense. And even the Planeswalkers that feel pretty strong are still like at a level where you go, okay, this isn't companion level. You know what I mean? Like, Planeswalkers have to get way more busted. This first foray into companions here, which is what I'm considering it, I just, the way that they're fighting back, the way that they're pushing back against this whole companion thing. You look at it, they have the Storm Scale, and the Storm Scale is the rating system that they use to determine, or at least maybe it's Rosewater's system, to determine like how much a set should, or not set, I should say, how much an ability should or should not be coming back to Magic the Gathering. And it's called the Storm Scale because Storm is so obtuse, so crazy, that that's like the highest level of don't do this again. And yet here we have companions, to the point where people are literally renaming the Storm Scale to the Companion Scale. And when you hear it, it doesn't feel wrong. So, I mean, this is all just me theorizing based on individual pieces of information. I'm not stating for a fact that companions are going to become a part of Magic, but I do have kind of the creeping, nagging, sneaking suspicion that they want to make companions a far more regular thing at the very least. And so they're pushing back on, we'll fix it, please don't make us ban it. Oh God, we don't want to ban it. What a nightmare. What a nightmare to design a mechanic and have every card of it just up on the chopping block with the people yelling, what are you doing, you idiots? Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is a community-funded channel, so thank you very much to my patrons and channel members. If you want to support the channel, hop on board on my Patreon. That's how I get things done here. Thanks for coming by, everybody, and I'll see you all very soon.